All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakak Badash. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who teach and rule well. And peace, love, and salutations to the Akim that's out there laboring, of the hopeful elect that's doing this work in truth and sincerity. And as we pretty much forge on to the twilight of this place being obliterated, we're pretty much seeing the true intents of the people that pretty much know about this truth. You know, and we're gonna start with people that's in this truth that are not pretty much teaching it right. You know, when I'm talking about the likes of IUIC and ISUBK and these other groups that's out there, and the total disingenuous spirit that's amongst them. You know, you can clearly see who serves the Most High and who serves Him not. And we see the disingenuous spirit is because they're not preparing the people for what's to come. You know, they're not speaking of, what this man is pretty much trying to implement. Speaking of the MOTB, um, they are pretty much compromised and ultimately have a gag order not to speak of these things, man. You know, but the people, okay, are pretty much of their congregation are actually asking questions. And of course, you know, through the guys of social media, you know, they pretty much window shop, you know, and these people are going to have a decision to make, and chiefly speaking about the elect amongst these other groups, okay, of them pretty much, the Lord said, "My sheep hear my voice." You see, but the masses of the people that are following these groups are pretty much slated for destruction, and these guys are pretty much dealing with a foundation that's of untempered mortar. You know, so let's get the understanding of what untempered mortar is. Well, let's go with what mortar is. Mortar is a plastic building material such as a mixture of cement, lime, or gypsum plaster with sand and water that hardens and is used in masonry or plastering. And pretty much when you have a construction company come in and build a building, you know, they first have to lay down the foundation, okay? And the foundation is usually of mixtures of cement, and pretty much, you know, it's mixed with sand and water, you know, to make this type of mixture that hardens over time, you know. But when you're dealing with untempered mortar, okay, all right, untempered mortar refers to a mortar that hasn't been properly mixed or adjusted, resulting in a weak or unstable material. And we can liken this untempered mortar to these false camps out there, man. You know, full of lies, hypocrisy, slander. You see, you know, they try to play on their people's emotions. You know, when you want to talk about the grape doctrine and get a arousal out of people, and people don't have the mind capacity to think for themselves and check things out and pretty much have the proper understanding of what it is that we're saying. Everything is pretty much of hearsay, and they run with it. You see, you know, Jake is pretty much a mockingbird, so to speak. You know, that's the serious nature of Jake, and Jake being a mockingbird is going to be pretty much to their own destruction, because they speak of things that they ought not to speak of, man. Okay, and we're simply speaking about what it is in the law and what this order is going to be in the new world, man. You see, but pretty much, you know, these guys are not being prepared, being prepared for what's to come down the pipeline, man. You know, okay, because they are focused not on prophecy. Okay, the spirit of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy, man. And when you have your congregation pretty much not being submersed in prophecy and worried about vanity and lies, okay, that's pretty much an untempered mortar, man. Okay, they're not being fully prepared, man. Okay, so when you have untempered mortar, which is resulting in weak and unstable material, okay, um, the house can't stand, man. Okay, that building will not stand. That building will begin to sink. That building will begin to pretty much topple, man. Okay, at any little slight of wind, you know, and you can liken that to where any slight of adversity to come this way, you know, these people are pretty much are going to fold, man. Okay, they're gonna fold. They're gonna be offended. You know, and the scriptures speak about people being offended for this word, man. Okay, you know, something they didn't sign up for, and they're not preparing themselves in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Abushai to understand that these things must need to come to pass, man. You see, all right. So these groups are ultimately dealing with untempered mortar, man. That foundation is not solid, man. Okay, this is why you have these guys that are pretty much speaking in a very ripple-based spirit, man. Okay, all right. The spirit is not dealing with them. When you have somebody that's dealing in reprobate spirit, the spirit is clearly not dealing with them, man. Okay, and the Lord pretty much takes away more and more from a man daily, man. Okay, all right. Because why? It's because his ultimate rebellion against Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Okay, here it is that we have to call upon the name of our deliverer. Okay, but there's a controversy on these other groups with the name. You see, okay, you know, and we already know pretty much, you know, who the culprits are concerning that, man. You know, but I want to pretty much open up, and I want to with a scripture. Okay, this is the book of Ezekiel. Pretty much going to go to Ezekiel the 13th chapter. Okay, and pretty much speaking about the false prophets, man. And I'm going to grab all the meat off of this. I'll hit my points. And this is Ezekiel chapter 13, verse 2. Son of man, prophesy against the prophets of Israel, that prophesy and say unto them, prophesy out of their own hearts, hear ye the word of the Lord. For thus say the Lord power, woe to the foolish prophets that follow their own spirit and have seen nothing. And they don't have not seen nothing because they can't go into prophecy. This is what these other groups do not do. Okay, outside of Great Millstone, they do not go into prophecy, man. Okay, because they don't have the spirit, man. Okay, they haven't seen anything. The vision is not given to them, man. Okay, to us is clear as day, but to them, you know, okay, and they wing it. Okay, Nate pretty much wings it. ISUPK pretty much is talking about folly. Okay, the pretty much the major voice over there is Captain Tazariak, and he's just talking about just everyday things, man. That's really gonna not profit at the end of the day. Okay, you know, he has this the you know, the live stream, you know, from his car most of the time, and he's not basically feeding the sheep, man. At the end of the day, man. Okay, you see, right? But they prophesy out of their own spirit, man. Okay, and haven't seen anything. They don't see the vision. They don't see the prophecies, man. Okay, so they can't pretty much convey this the prophecies and teach the congregation, man. Okay, they're not feeding their sheep. Okay, this is an example of untempered mortar, right? It says, Israel, thy prophets are like foxes in the desert. They have not gone up into the gaps, neither have made up the hedge of the house of Israel to stand in the day, to stand in the battle in the day of the Lord. Okay, and what's that hedge? The hedge is that protectiveness, man. Okay, all right. These other camps, the congregations of these camps, they don't have a mind of their own. Okay, you see, all right. They pretty much are following the blind leading the blind, man. Okay, and they're foxes in the desert, man. Okay, the foxes amongst the dry bones, man, of their congregation, man. You see, all right. But they have not made up the hedge for them to be able to stand in the day of the Lord, man. Okay, and what's the day of the Lord, man? Ultimately, the ICBMs, man. Okay, you see, all right, and but you know the adversity that comes along prior to that, which is Jacob's trouble, man. Okay, you see, uh, ISUPK is pretty much not speaking of it at all. And the only reason why Nate is treating pretty much adjusting to this is because we called him out on it, man. Okay, when he said out of his own mouth that there will be no Jacob's trouble, man. Okay, that's almost like a Christian doctrine where you're talking about where they think they're not going to be here for the because of the rapture, so to speak. Okay, all right. He's pretty much selling them on that. Okay, but he had to pretty much change his position slightly, but he still does not pretty much make up the hedge, man, for his congregation, man, to stand in that day. It says they have seen vanity and lying divination, saying, the Lord saith, and the Lord have not sent them. They have not made others to hope that they would confirm the word. And you pretty much, people are wanting to know this truth, and they're being taught amiss. Okay? All right? And they're pretty much are submersing themselves in a foundation that's not going to be solid in that time, man. Okay? You see? You know, all they're about is vanity and lying divination, man. Slander. You see? Okay? They want to try to beat one camp down off of slander to pretty much make themselves look good, to where it's like, you know, people don't have a mind of their own to understand what is being said. You see? Okay? And people, they sound like they pretty much keep that great doctrine rhetoric, okay, in their back pocket. You know, it's almost like in case of emergency, break glass. That's what they do, because that's what they run to. Okay, and it adds a shock value, is because most people are of the world at the end of the day, and don't really pretty much understand the ancient mindset and the ancient customs, okay, that we had, and what will be implemented, okay, all right, once order is established. You see, these things are in place to keep order, man, okay, but people are rather cleave to the standard of what they've been given, and which is chaos, man. Okay, you see, all right, not order. This is not at all in order. Everything is disorder. Okay, and people are used to that. They love to have it so, man. Okay, you see, and it says, have you not seen a vain vision, and have you not spoken a lying divination? Whereas you say the Lord has said it, albeit I have not spoken. You know, and speaking of things that the Lord has not even speaking on, you know, pretty much winging it, man. Therefore, thus say the Lord power, because you have spoken vanity and seen lies. Therefore, behold, I am against you, saith the Lord power. Okay, so the Lord is against these people, man, that are speaking lies and hypocrisy, man. Okay, lying divination. Okay, you see, all right, and vanity, man. You know, the Lord is against these people, man. You see, it says, in my hand shall be upon the prophets that see vanity and that divine lies. They should not be in the assembly of my people. Okay, so you're not going to be in the assembly of the Lord's chosen, man. Okay, all right. It says, neither shall ye be written in the writing of the house of Israel, neither shall they enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am the Lord power, man. Because they have seduced my people, saying peace, peace, and there is no peace. Okay, and pretty much that's what they did, man. Okay, you know, and ISUBK is pretty much on a low level, because they're pretty much dogs that can't bark, man. Okay, that's pretty much what they're into, man. These guys are caught up in all types of scandals and things that are going on, and pretty much are not focused on the things that are at hand. You see, okay, a lot of them pretty much are too busy doing damage control, because they're fumbling the breakdowns, so to speak. Okay, you see, and I love the fact that the apostles pretty much are keeping a close eye on everything that Nate does, man. Okay, and calling it out. You know, they always talk about when they after camp, when they head back towards the Ponderosa. They pretty much tune into what Nate's speaking of, man. So he's under a spotlight, man. Okay, a searing spotlight, man. Okay, and it's all through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashim Abishai, man, of the true men that the Lord had set up to pretty much rebuke this man, okay, and pretty much pull the potential elect from out of that madness, man. Okay, so Nate pretty much doesn't have nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, man. Okay, you see, all right, but it says, right, they seduce my people, saying peace, and there is no peace. And one built up his wall, and lo, others daubed it with untempered mortar. And that's what they do. Because you got to be able to have your congregation prepared for what's to come, man. And they're not doing that, man. Because why? It's because that foundation is laid with untempered mortar, man. Okay? And it says, say unto them, which daubed it with untempered mortar, that it shall fall. There shall be an overflowing shower. And ye, O great hailstones, shall fall, and a stormy wind shall rend it. You see? And pretty much the turbulent times that's to come, they're not going to be able to have the perfect wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to be the stability of that time, man. Okay? So these people can sit here and you know, uh, continue to slander, continue to yak it up and make fools of themselves, man. Okay? All right? You see? But they're not pretty much they're not trimming their lamps, man. It says, lo, when the wall was fallen, shall it not be said unto them, where is the dubbing what thou have dubbed it? Okay, yeah, where's your oil at, man? Okay, you see? Okay, you claim to be people of the Lord, okay, with the right doctrine, but once you people are pretty much that foundation falls, but what happened? It's basically what this is saying here, man. Okay, all right. Where is the mortar that you have dubbed it with, man? Okay. Therefore, thus said the Lord power, I will even rend it with a stormy wind and my fury, and there shall be an overflowing shower in my anger and great hailstones in my fury to consume it. So the Lord pretty much has a target, a bullseye, okay, on these other camps, man, in that time, man. Okay, the Lord said that whose mouths must be stopped, man. Okay, and the only way that it's gonna stop is from the cruel judgment from the Lord, man. Okay, you see, and it says, so I will break down the wall that you have dubbed with untempered mortar, and bring it down to the ground, so that the foundation thereof shall be discovered, and it shall fall, and it shall be consumed in the midst thereof, and you shall know that I am the Lord. You see? Okay, so the foundation is going to be broken down and discovered, man. Okay, all right. Let's get that real quick. Let's see that real quick. Let's get discovered.
Strong's H 1540. Gala.
Uncovered, remove, depart, to go in exile, to uncover oneself, to discover and show oneself, to reveal himself, to be uncovered, to be disclosed or discovered, to be revealed, to be removed, to uncover nakedness. Your nakedness is going to be seen, man. Okay, and you're going to be pretty much be removed out of your place, man, as claiming to be men of the Lord, man. Okay, all right. The Lord's pretty much going to put that candle out, man. Okay, you see, all right, right. So it says, thus will I accomplish my wrath upon that wall, and upon them that have dubbed it with untempered mortar. And I will say unto you, the wall is no more, neither shall it be dubbed it. To wit, the prophets of Israel will prophesy concerning Jerusalem, and which seen visions of peace for her, and there is no peace, saith the Lord. Power, man. Okay? And there's not going to be no peace coming, man. Okay? And you have to be able to, pursuant to Ephesians the 6th chapter, man. Okay? You got to be fully armed with the word of the Lord, man. in spirit and in truth at the end of the day, man. And we're seeing that it's clear, crystal clear. This is what they're not doing, man. And that goes for all these other guys that's outside of Great Millstone and their affiliates, man. These other camps, man, are pretty much are not guiding the people right, man. Okay? And their foundations will crumble, man. Okay? We will see that and in the near future, man. Okay? Because, playtime is over, man. Okay? And all this back and forth, man, is going to cease, man. Okay? And the Lord is setting up his standard in the earth, man. And there's only going to be one way to do things, and that's the bottom line, man. Okay? So with that, I'm going to end it there. And I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rakakudash, Shalom.